All right, so this is our social justice project. I'm Ba-Duong,
I'm
and
Anastasia. Okay. Should safe injection sites be sanctioned to help end the opioid epidemic?
so starting off, what are opioids? Opioids are drugs that have been damaging to this country. People are prescribed opioids to deal with chronic pain, such as back pain. However, they begin to get addicted and they take more and more over time. There wasn't a lot of regulation on opioids when first released to the market, alongside misinformation about the levels of addiction as a side effect of opioids. Sooner or later, the doctor slash physician realizes this and begins to prescribe less and less. However, there are also opioids on the black market and begin to leak out to people. Then people gradually take more and more until they die. According to the US Department of Health and Human Services, an average of 130 people die each day in opioid related deaths.
So this is a story from someone named Ian Brown, and he was in high school, and he was pretty athletic, like any high school guy would be. And he played tennis, he skated, he surfed, and then he started to experiment with opioids during the weekends, but during the weekdays suffered through withdrawal and eventually dropped out of high school. Throughout his adult life, he struggled with going in and out of rehab and relapsing. And he also tried to have his parents help him with his addiction, but in the end, he could not win that battle and died. So
What are safe injection sites? It's a place that offers sterile supplies, secure environment, free from criminal prosecution, and life-saving support. And oftentimes programs that help with addiction. There are about 100 legal safe injection sites in the world. The concept of safe injection sites already gives many people the wrong impression. Give a bunch of drug addicts clean supplies so they can just shoot up. You should just throw them in jail for using illegal drugs. Many of the Republican candidates in office have already vetoed the numerous proposals from major cities. They believe that it's a waste on the taxpayers' money to support drug addicts and use the legal system to fight the war on drugs. Trump specifically has cut down $400 million on substance abuse and mental health services. The startups of SIS were now treating addiction as a health issue. People are coming to the conclusion that many addicts either don't have the resources to help them stop or they're not ready to stop. It is nearly impossible to force someone to truly do something unless they want it for themselves. So providing clean supplies in a safe place at least helps them not spread disease, not die from overdosing, and doesn't force them to shoot up in public areas.
safe injection sites are beneficial to American society. They can help reduce thousands of overdose deaths from fentanyl and heroin and help lower the spread of diseases such as hepatitis and HIV. This new approach is what the nation needs to implement since previous methods aren't working for anyone.
I believe that safe injection sites are not a viable way to solve the crisis. They provide no real method of relieving people of their addiction and lowering the output of opioids. How does it fix a problem if it just appeals to the addicts?
So here, I don't need to talk about that. Opioids are a strong painkiller that blocks the pain receivers in your brain, giving the user a relief from severe pain. They are originally reserved for patients with chronic pain or recovering from a major surgery, but during the 90s, big pharma brands began to create their own synthetic versions of opioids and started to push the highly addictive painkiller on the market. These companies invested in false medical studies and reports stating that opioids have a low addiction rate of less than 1% and gave incentives to doctors and medical providers that prescribe their drugs. Doctors began to prescribe opioids for minor injuries like a sprained ankle, and when over-the-counter painkillers could have worked perfectly fine. Over the last 3 decades, opioid-related deaths have reached a body count for it to be considered an epidemic. Many people who have become part of the crisis weren't drug addicts, but normal people. Once the prescription ran out, many of them were already hooked and needed to find alternatives. This brings the uprising rates of heroin and fentanyl usage across the nation. Medically prescribed and illegal opioids have both contributed to 70,237 overdose deaths in the United States in 2017.
My first reason of being against safe injection sites is the encouragement it brings. With the bringing of safe injection sites, it does nothing to address the supply of opioids to the users. With the access of a safe space, people could be encouraged to take more drugs because they don't have to worry about their safety or nearby surroundings. With the encouragement of using drugs, there could be an increase in demand of those drugs. That increase in demand can bring all kinds of trouble to the neighborhood, whether it's drug dealers or gangs. No one knows. It's a huge risk to take, and it's not even for certain that these sites will truly bring the good and benefits it says it will.
Um, in conjunction with the rise of the opioid crisis, the spread of deadly blood-borne diseases such as HCV, HIV, and AIDS, the US has started a needle exchange program during the AIDS crisis, and the rates of HIV prevalence dropped from 50 to 17%. So in retrospect, there has been a major funding towards public health issues such as HIV and HCV, where the rates were up to 70 to 90% in people between 18 to 30 with a diagnosis of some kind. There's been taxpayer money in support of legal usage, but the opioid crisis has been a larger public health issue with 27 million dependents on some sort of opioid or over-the-counter opioid and over thousands of deaths each year, yet funding and only a little bit of legal process has been made.
My second reason is that it doesn't address the causes of the opioid crisis and allows it to continue. Just because they provide a safe space and clean needles, that doesn't mean they're fighting against the opioid crisis. They're only addressing the problems instead of fighting the source. How does the safe injection sites prevent addiction if they only prevent the transfers of STDs? It doesn't give them therapy to help them get off the opioids, doesn't reduce their supply of opioids, or even find a way to get them treatment.
I believe that safety injection sites are beneficial to large cities that have a high rate of overdose and drug issues. Inside in Vancouver has saved over 3,500 people since its opening in 2016, and MSIC in Sydney has 12,000 clients in referral to drug addicted help. Places around the world who have opened and safety injection sites have mentioned that one of the biggest controversies with opening it is that it would increase drug usage. But since the opening, there hasn't been an increase of drug usage and over 60,000 overdose without one death. This is from Insight in Vancouver. This is monumental because it shows that safety injection sites can help save lives and provide proper treatment for those who need it.
My third reason is that statistics have shown results that there is no decrease in drug use. There are safe injection sites in parts of Europe and North America. One of those sites is in Vancouver. From the Vancouver site, there are no reports of reduced drug use. They provide the statistics of a decrease in overdose deaths, but talk nothing about the amount of usage. There's no data regarding the usage of opioids and whether or not there is an increase or decrease overall in usage. It also seems to quote down the fact that there are so many overdoses overall. Aren't they supposed to stop overdoses and try to fight addiction?
The area around safety injection sites have reduced the amount of ambulance calls for overdose victims by 80%, giving more time, space, and money to someone else who might need it. It gives them an appropriate place to shoot up and not in a park or on the side of the street or in a dark alley. There's been evidence that it doesn't support increased drug usage in a safety injection site area. They aren't placed in family dense locations where it could have increased unwanted traffic. They're usually placed in financial or warehouse districts. It also reduces the spread of bloodborne diseases such as HIV and AIDS, and saves lives in general by providing treatment towards addiction programs or over-the-counter drugs. Or counter drugs.
So even though safe injection sites saves lives, it doesn't reduce the number of drug abusers. You could spend millions on saving those lives, but that doesn't stop them from wanting to take the drugs. Then goes on the loop of spending, and turns out the amount of users stays the same. Even then, the amount of users could increase while all you're doing is saving lives. It's a long cycle that isn't resolved. The treatments are given while the amount of treatments pile up. Creating some fake achievements doesn't help the fight. If you truly want the abusers to be free of that disability of being addicted, find a way to solve that addiction.
America has struggled with drug addiction, and when President Nixon declared the war on drugs in the 70s, the philosophy is to put drug addicts in jail, depriving them from supplies. This philosophy is still present today and clearly doesn't solve anything, seeing the increasing deaths each year from overdoses. Many people don't understand if you can't force someone to truly stop unless they realize it themselves and want to change. Safe injection sites offer a place for people to use a safe, clean space and use clean injection supplies, while also offering a full staff of clinicians equipped with crash kits to respond immediately to an overdose and provide programs that help end addiction. This gives users a completely safe, monitored environment in case of an overdose, which offers a second chance to live. Many people are still skeptical if these sites still work before admitting them into the states. They believe it will increase usage rates, but positive responses from Canada has showed reduced rates. And if the US government sanctions safety injection sites for addicts, specifically those who are addicted to opioid-related drugs such as heroin and fentanyl, there's a chance we can stop the opioid epidemic since previous methods haven't been working for the last 30 years.
Thoughts about the future. The government could direct their funding somewhere else. As a lifeguard, I was taught to prevent lives from being in danger rather than saving lives that are already in danger. The government could do the same and try to identify the crisis at its source and fight that. Obviously, whatever spending that has happened before never really did anything against the opioids. If anything, it increased because the drug use has gone up, but that can change. The government can try to find a source of the crisis to specifically address and shut down. Over time, the crisis can be fully eliminated.
The Catholic Church doesn't seem to have a definitive opinion on the matter since it's such a recent topic, and there's been both opposition and support within the church. However, a Catholic newspaper in Philadelphia has interviewed two figures in local churches, one against and the other in support. Father Peter Clark believes addiction is so pernicious and someone has to do something, and it seems that safety injection sites are the best bet. While Stephen Bonza, director of the Archdiocese of Philadelphia's Office for Life and Family, and Dr. Jeffrey Beeger, an addiction medicine specialist, agree that the crisis demands immediate action, but they insist that safe injection sites aren't the answer. Despite the differences in approach, two sides agreed on several key points. The main one stresses that the need to uphold the sanctuary of human life. They regarded addiction as a disease that profoundly damages individuals' willpower and ability to make healthy decisions. Education and awareness are essential to preventing addiction and compassionately treating those who suffer from it. Thank you.
These are sources cited. That's the link, and
these are the images used in the presentation. Okay.